Today's training might be a little rough. You sure talk a lot.
What's up, guys, and welcome to What the Gaming.
What the?
What's up, peers, colleagues, and friends? On today's episode of What the Gaming, we're going to be discussing SoulCalibur 7 and something about release dates and yada yada yada. So what I want to talk about first and foremost is that nobody wants this game to come out more than I do. I would say, in my opinion. So this is not like a declaration of fact or anything like that. It's just that, like, I have banked years and years and years of videos for SoulCalibur 7 on my channel, so that when it does actually get, released, I'm probably going to see some monetary benefit of that based on my channel getting more views than it would normally when I'm not talking about SoulCalibur, because for a lot of people that are on my channel, it's mainly for SoulCalibur, even though I talk about a lot of other things that interest me. But primarily, people come here for SoulCalibur. So I want to talk about the recent, video game awards, and then we have Summer Games Fest coming up and all kinds of stuff. And I see people that I like and people that I call friends on X and other platforms giving out this sense of everyday wonderment that SoulCalibur 7 is going to magically be announced, or at least hope that it's going to be announced. And while I do share in their enthusiasm and their passion for wanting this game to come out at some point in the future, there's just comes a time when you need to look at the evidence and see where it's pointing, as opposed to starting with your end goal and, trying to backtrack based on that. So the main reason that I don't really talk too much about like SoulCalibur 7 these days is A, because I have, years of banked videos like talking about my opinions of that ad nauseum, so you guys can just go check out that backlog. But mostly it's because there's not really much to talk about in the way of future or planning phases or anything like that when it comes to SoulCalibur 7. And friends of mine like Yoshi Cookie, for example, wake up every day on Twitter and say, another day of hoping for SoulCalibur 7 and Dead or Alive 7. And while I do want both of those games, Dead or Alive 7 seems far more likely at this point to be coming before SoulCalibur 7 than even I would subconsciously like to admit. And there's a few reasons beyond that. So when people say that they're waiting for a game announcement, when a game is announced, it's usually already in development or sometimes upcoming development, but that's like far down the road, right? When it comes to like games like SoulCalibur and like other fighting games of the like in the same ilk, a lot of times they will say coming soon, or more information coming later, and we just get an announcement trailer, maybe a CGI cinematic trailer or something like that. But that's just proof and evidence that the game is at least being worked on, not that it has like a solid release date or anything like that. But in SoulCalibur's case, not only do we have, all of the evidences that have been like built up over the past, like people asking Harada and him saying his famous like ask me again in 10 years, which shouldn't be taken 100% seriously because of my next point. This game does not have a producer yet. There's nobody to showboat or front run or push this game, especially to somebody like Bandai Namco. It's just nobody there that are actually like saying that we need to get this done, nobody pushing or getting together a team, no producers, nothing like that. And while there may be some internal people that like want it to happen, a lot of other people are also focused on other things while they're like working on those things. Like we know a lot of the Tekken team are working on games like Pac-Man and Tekken, for example, ever since that like update. So I'm fine with people like hoping for that, but like we aren't even in like the pre-planning phases yet. And nobody, like, again, wants to see this game more than me, because I think the narrative that they were building up to in SoulCalibur 6, especially with the DLC, the way they were intertwining their story and trying to set future points and, like, to be continueds and stuff like that, is more than just, how do I put this? Inclinations for the future. It's, like, something I want to see the fruition come to. I want to see that story revealed. I want to see that story in its fullness just released, and all those character interactions and all the new characters and all that stuff. I want to see that. I think the narration in the story mode was going so well, especially if you played Libra of Souls and you backed all that up with things that are coinciding and events that are coming out in the same thing. The way that we get like Chester and other characters from like SoulCalibur 6, SoulCalibur 3 in there, and the way that these relationships are forming. There's so much good narration there that of course I want to see the story continue. Not to mention the fact that, like, I love the fighting game engine, except for, like, maybe Reversal Edge, and I would like to see a lot of these games come back, because in this space, like, it seems like there's only two things that are super popular at this time, and it's either, like, 3D anime arenas, which a lot of people don't like, or it's 2D, like, side-scrolling classic fighting game styles, which also a lot of people don't like. These kind of 2.5D plane games, like SoulCalibur or Tekken, that utilize some kind of movement system, like Dead or Alive, these games are a niche that fits the in-between for those two factions on either end. And I feel like there's a void there now. And of course we have games coming out like Virtual Fighter and stuff like that, but that's also like a very niche fighting game. I know it's like one of the first like of those fighters to come out, but its fan base is like comparatively small compared to something like Tekken or even SoulCalibur for that matter. But I think that when we're talking about this, it's like, how do we realistically gauge when this game is going to come out? Because they're not going to like announce that they have a producer, right? A lot of the times they're just going to internally try to fight for this and push for this, and then, you know, Bandai Namco is going to either approve it based on whether people actually fund the game, whether investors are interested in making that game. So it's dependent on how good of the push is from the pusher. The reason that SoulCalibur 6 was made in the first place is because the director and the producer gunned so hard for it, laid out so many of their plans, and given the limited budget and making the promises that they made of how many copies it would sell and how much money it would actually do and how much return on investment they would get for the investors, they put forward enough of a, you know, a plan that they was approved, and conditionally, obviously, that it was approved, since we've heard stuff like that. But there's nobody really doing that right now at Bandai Namco trying to get this game made. I'm sure there's people that want it made, but there's nobody actively trying to get it made. So we need another, you know, Okubo to try to come forward with enough clout of his own to be like, hey, I'm going to head up this project, which is why a lot of people went to Harada, because he would be like the obvious choice, since he was like a producer of SoulCalibur 4 and 5, the worst SoulCalibur games. But I think that since he was so burned by those two titles and didn't want like his ego to be hurt even further, like he stepped away after 5, and like he's part of the reason why the DLC got canceled, because he didn't really have anything to do with the game at that time. So I think that like Okubo, like taking it the direction he did a really good job, but there's just nobody to do that push. There are ways of finding out this information. You can go on like LinkedIn or Glassdoor or any of those kind of like job posting sites that are used in Japan or by Bandai Namco also, to try and push forward like looking for a producer for said fighting game. They are very vague about it, but you can usually see those postings and you can usually tell which franchise it's talking about in the little details that they kind of give. But there's nothing akin to that right now. And some of the people that I talk to internally, there's no news, there's no information, and their guess is as good as mine, basically. I'm not just talking about voice actors, because they're usually the last to know, because voice lines are usually the last things to be done in a video game, is get the voice lines recorded. So it's not just them. We're talking about like quality assurance, you know, teams that are associated with Bandai Namco, and, you know, whatever, who cares? But I'm just saying that like there's no news about this game at all. Like, as much as I can give little tidbits here and there and like have a lot of hype like Yoshi Cookie does and be like, yeah, look, they put SoulCalibur 2 on the Nintendo Switch, you know, GameCube app, or yeah, we're gonna get SoulCalibur 3 like at some point on the PlayStation Plus package, and we can like download it, you know what I mean? Oh, the licenses were renewed. All these things are hints and clues that they're not done with the franchise, but none of them correlate or coincide with ultimately a SoulCalibur 7 project happening, and it's certainly not by a specific timeline. So I just think that like I love seeing all this talk of SoulCalibur 7 on X, and don't stop. Like, it's, if anybody is gonna like, you know, fire the flames of passion for this game in the developers and in Bandai Namco, and for Bandai Namco just to see dollar signs, it's gonna be it trending and people constantly talking about it and making videos about it and all kinds of stuff that just have to do with the genre in general. Like, that's what's going to get these pushed to get, you know, a producer to step up and be like, hey, maybe there's a backing here. Maybe we can actually make the projected amount of money that we're promising the investors. Maybe we have something to present to them that they can go with. These are all things that, like, are the core of how we get things made these days. It's not like back in the day when like you just get a project approved based on if you think there's a projection there. It's like they need to see, especially from these niche titles, which it's stupid to say SoulCalibur's niche because it's not. It's one of the biggest fighting games there is. But when you compare it to like the 10-year gap that like we had with SoulCalibur VII that started 3 years earlier in arcades before it even hit consoles in the US, and you know, amassing all that money, comparing that to SoulCalibur, it's obvious to see why investors would back off, because they'd be like, how come your project's not as good as mine? When in actuality, it's not the case at all. SoulCalibur had a shorter lifespan, and that's not, you know, anything here or there, but all the things I just keep saying on the negative side too about like SoulCalibur's being dead or it should stay dead are also stupid. Like, it's my favorite fighting game franchise. I think Dead or Alive and SoulCalibur are like almost neck and neck with me, but I think I like SoulCalibur more, to be honest. But if we don't shut up, if we shut up and we stop like screaming from the rooftops that we want this game to get made, it's never going to get made. So that is our part and our duty to do this. So don't think that I'm taking this video and making it to attack the people that are like really gung-ho about this game and want it to be made. I'm super behind you. Like, you have my full attention, and I will repost you, and I'm happy that you're doing it. I just don't think that for ourselves personally, it's realistic to think it's going to come out or get announced anytime soon, especially with how long development times are for these games. Even if it's like a smaller game that takes 2 or maybe 3 years to develop, without a producer even at the helm, we're already looking at like, what, like 2028, 2029 maybe? Like, it's hard to even project because there's no backing for any project. So I don't want to end this video on a negative note. I hope SoulCalibur 7 comes out relatively soon, before I'm like 60 something. You know what I mean? Like, I hope it comes and it blows everything out of the water and reignites everyone's passion for SoulCalibur and bursts the franchise into a whole new stratosphere of, you know, knowledge and zeitgeist within the community and blows everything else out of the water. I really hope that that's the case. But I'm going to go based on evidence, and I'm going to go based on just like what I'm presented with and formulate my opinions around that, because that's what's always safer for me and my mentality purposefully. But in the meantime, I still have all these other awesome SoulCalibur games that I can play. And while I know that we all want to jump onto the next new thing, just remember that the other games exist, and keep doing those podcasts, keep doing those YouTube videos, keep doing those Twitch streams, keep doing those X posts, like keep doing all that stuff. And you'll be sure to get a like from me. But that's going to be the end of today's video, guys. Thank you for joining me so much. I really appreciate you. And as my new phrase is going to be going forward, don't be bitter, be better.
Ivy Valentine subscribes to Mark Yoon. So should you. Enjoy your treat!
Sorry, but I gotta go.